have a question from Patrick, and he says, I think my future spouse has bad credit. When we get married, is this going to affect me and my credit? So that's actually a very good question, as one of the number one things that people fight about when they get married is their finances and their money, because it's such a personal thing. You know, whether you combine your finances or if you don't combine your finances, either way it can be a big change. So people have a lot of trouble kind of figuring out how that's going to work for you. And so when you bring credit into the picture also, and when it's not good credit necessarily, that can make things worse too. So this is definitely something that you should discuss with your future spouse before you get married, just so that you guys are on the same page and you can get a good game plan for going forward. According to NerdWallet's 2016 annual American Household Credit Card Debt Study, the average household actually has $16,748 in credit card debt. So this isn't an uncommon thing that you might run into, whether or not they've talked about it before or you already know before you're getting engaged that they might have credit card debt. So it's not surprising if one of you has run into debt issues. However, to answer your question, your future spouse's credit is not going to affect your own credit, or your own credit is tied to your Social Security number. So you maintain your own credit score, your own history, you get your own credit report, pretty much everything's separate. So if you're applying for a new loan for, say, a car, or if you want to get an apartment somewhere, if it's only in your name, the lenders are only going to look at your credit. So marrying someone with bad credit isn't going to affect your score. It's not going to lower your score or anything like that. The biggest thing that it could impact is when you decide to make joint decisions, and if you want to apply for a loan together, or if you want to apply for a mortgage, you typically will need both of your incomes. So in that case, they'll look at both of your credit. So it really can make an issue in that case when you are looking to do something jointly. So, you know, if your credit is good and theirs is bad, or vice versa, you may not qualify for the loan that you want, or you may have a higher interest rate versus if you were applying for this loan separately. So you need to have an open and honest discussion with your future spouse before you guys get married. You need to determine what the issue is really. If it's, you know, just a one-time thing that happened and maybe there was a medical emergency, or they were unemployed for a long time and they racked up all this credit card debt, or if it's more of a habit issue and it's going to be something that's going to be an ongoing problem. One thing I would suggest doing is pulling each of your credit reports. You can get a free annual report on creditkarma.com. Sit down and look at those together, look for any mistakes, just go over them, make sure that you guys understand what's going on and kind of how you can work to fix it in the future. You need to ask them if they're working on improving this, or, you know, if they just don't really care, then maybe that's going to be a different issue. You could consider doing credit counseling together. There's a lot of online resources that you can find, or there's places where you can go in person. Doing this credit counseling is not going to affect your credit score or anything like that. It just will give you some good resources to get on the right track again. You could also consider keeping your finances and your credit separate. So just keep separate checking accounts and keep separate credit cards. Don't have joint credit cards until your future spouse has rebuilt their credit and is getting to a better place with that. So this shouldn't really be a deal breaker either way. You really should support each other. You love each other if you're about to get married. So work together to rebuild that credit. It's really, really important to make sure that you make your payments on time. That's one of the biggest things that the credit card companies and lenders are looking at, and that's going to really help improve your credit score. Make sure you're not spending above your means. You could also look into consolidating some of the credit cards if you have multiple, or doing a refinance option to get a lower interest rate. That could help kind of manage some of it if you have multiple credit cards and are having trouble making all the different payments. If you can get those into one, that might be just a little bit easier to manage. If one of you does have good credit, you could consider a joint credit card with your partner. Then their credit score should improve a little bit. So I know it's not romantic to talk about credit scores and financial habits, but it will save a lot of grief and money when the honeymoon's over.